I'm going to build some arrows today, and it's going to be a little bit different than what's normally seen on this channel. I'm going to be building some trad arrows. Kind of not necessarily super trad, because they are still modern carbon shafts, but they have this really nice wooden grain finish all over it, and I'm building these arrows for a bow that I do have coming soon. So I'm super excited because, like I said, this is new, this is different on this channel, for me at least, setting up a set of traditional arrows for use hopefully in the very near future. So yeah, I have a little something ordered, and I need to get some arrows built for it before it arrives, because when it shows up, I'm going to want to shoot it pretty much as soon as possible. And it is a traditional bow. I have a Boyer making one, and I'll reveal who it is and what they're building me when I get the bow, because I'm not going to see pictures of it. I specifically asked not to be sent pictures of the bow itself, because I want to be surprised and I want to debut it on this channel and see it for the first time along with you guys as well. If you're new here, my name's Jake Kaminski. I'm a two-time Olympic silver medalist in the sport of archery. I've done a lot of different things and shot a lot of different bows in many different countries across the world and competed full-time for a while. I'm retired now doing YouTube, and I make a whole bunch of videos on how to help make you a better shooter, from form to equipment and tuning and mental help, as far as like mental process, and all sorts of different things to ultimately just, enhance your archery shooting. So if you wouldn't mind, hit that subscription button and the notification bell, because I am pumping out new content, and there is some traditional stuff coming in the very near future. So I may not be an expert in it, but I'm going to cut my teeth on it and share my methods as to what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Ultimately, I'm just going to have a lot of fun, because that's what trad archery is about, in my opinion, at least from my perspective, so I'm excited about it. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set the camera up over the bench and start recording this and fletch a few different arrows for you guys and show you the methods that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using feathers today and gluing those on, and I do have some other veins that I am eventually going to be playing with and testing just to see the difference between the two. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to get you set up over the bench so I can get to work. Alright, so now we're set up here over the bench. These are the Easton Axis trad arrows, and I went with these for a few different reasons. One of them is that I've shot the Axis for a long time. I know that it's relatively straight, relatively consistent, and I just really like the finish on the arrow. Super nice. I like the hidden insert system. I really just overall like this arrow a lot. Or at least this type of arrow. So that's why I went with it. It may not be the cheapest one in the world as far as the trad arrow is concerned. It may not be the most trad arrow that it is out there, because it is, carbon and it's painted with a decal and whatever. But this is what I'm going to run with. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to fletch them up. I actually have some feathers here. I've got some left wing feathers. I've got a left helical clamp. I've got some glue, and I've also got double-sided tape for spin wing type stuff or feather stuff. And then I have some trad veins over here from AAE as well. Eventually I'm going to fletch these up and shoot these, because supposedly you can shoot these veins off the shelf and it pretty much exactly how feathers are off the shelf, because they're made of the wave material, which I helped, be a part of designing as far as desire to put these on Olympic style recurve arrows and try to find why veins don't shoot well on an Olympic style recurve when compared to a spin wing type vein. So this is a kind of an offspring of something I had hands in, and I really like the material itself. And because it's so flexible and also so lightweight, you should be able to shoot it off the shelf without any sort of issues, just like feathers can be shot. But you have the benefits of this can be shot in the rain, get wet, and you don't have to worry about powder in those veins to prevent that water from soaking in, and therefore your sight marks, your crawl, your point on, whatever you want to call it, to plummet. So I'm going to set these aside because I'm not going to use them this time, but I will at some point. The reason I'm doing left wing feathers and a left helical, from what I've learned over the years, you must match the helical to the wing of the feather. Otherwise, the Velcro-y type sections of the feather will separate much easier when the wind hits the wrong side of it, and the wing will actually fold over and not grab the air and actually make it spin or stabilize. Now, why I'm going with left wing over right wing is specifically just because I have more left wing than I do right wing at the time. Excuse all the cuts and stuff all over my arms. I am working on building a house and doing a bunch of outdoor yard work and things, so I get cut up all the time, so I'm sorry about that. But anyway, what I'm going to do it two different ways. I'm going to fletch one with some glue and see how much time has elapsed, and then I'm going to fletch one with this double-sided boning fletch tape and see how much faster it is. And then ultimately, over time, I'm going to be able to see how durable each are. I know that this works really well. I've always glued my feathers on. I've never double-sided taped them on, like for a tournament or anything like that. I've done it for fun just to see how it works, and it seems to work, but I just don't know how well it's going to stick. So I'm going to try both and then just shoot them over time and see what happens. But before I do that, I'm going to set up with a couple of arrows, like I said. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a bit of a series, I guess, on building these arrows. I've already done a video on how to set up and adjust your Bitzenberger fletching jig, or generally how and what you're looking for to set up your fletching jig, and I already have that video. I have links in the description below, and I'll put a card at the top up that direction for you to check out in case you're interested in learning how to set up a jig correctly. And I will glue in inserts. I'll show how to do that. I will cut these arrows and show how I do that as well, just because maybe there are some traditional style shooters out there that haven't yet seen this channel and want to see the methods that I use to build the equipment as best as possible, so I have the best, highest performing equipment that I possibly can, no matter what you purchase. It ultimately comes down to the effort you put behind it and how you're building the arrow in order for its performance to really even see some sort of result. So today what I'm fletching with are flu-flus, full-size feathers, because I will also do a future video on how to burn feathers. And it may be a dead, dying thing that nobody really does anymore, but I like it because I get to create custom shapes and profiles and ultimately just kind of do my own thing, which I'm always a fan of. So I'm starting with some flu-flus today. These again are left wing, they're from Gateway. And before I fletch these arrows up, I'm gonna clean the shaft. I'm gonna use these Max Clean wipes from AAE. That'll work. So basically you just take the wipe itself and wipe over the arrow that the veins are going to go on. And that's about it, really. All right, so again, left wing, left helical. Doesn't matter which way you cock the feather on the knock, not on these arrows because these knocks are adjustable, so I can turn them to adjust which one I want sticking out. I'm gonna grab one of the feathers here, and obviously you set it so the taper is this direction, and I'm going to put them as far back as I can on the jig as possible. All the way down here at the base here. You want to make sure you put the bottom of the vein, or the top of the vein, doesn't matter, in the same place. Although you can see there's indicators down here on this edge, on the bottom edge, for indexing away from the knock. I found that as far back as possible is the most accurate way to fletch as far as consistency, number one, but also the further back the feather or vein is relative to the actual center line of the arrow, more towards the knock, it seems to stabilize the arrow better in flight, and just ultimately you shoot better. And as long as you have finger clearance and you're not touching the feathers as you let go of the string, then they're not too far back. Or touching your face, depending on if you want them to or not. That's close. It's really close. I'm just gonna leave it there. And I've already explained how these clamps are curved the wrong way, so you gotta pull these feathers out a little bit. Again, that was in that video that I referenced as well. And I'm just gonna use some AAE Max Bond. I work with them a lot, so they send me lots of stuff, and I thank them for that, because this type of glue is a CA glue. It's a hobby glue, but it seems to be super extra thick, so it's, you know, it doesn't run all over the place and get a bunch of glue in places you don't want it to be. So again, I'm going to be comparing the two different styles of fletching up arrows with this glue versus the double-sided tape itself. So I just, you know, I'm curious. I bet you it's going to save a ton of time with the double-sided tape, obviously. So I like to give it a good hold on the actual arrow for a little bit of time, just to make sure it doesn't pop away, and I'll watch it and visually make sure that it's not moving away from the actual arrow after I put it in place. And so I'll just let it sit there for a little bit of time until it cures enough to stick, and then I'll take the clamp off, rotate it to the next one, and so on. As you notice, I have the glue laying down like this. The reason is as I wait, if I were to set it up like this, all the glue that I had to wait to go to the tip will drain back out of the tip, and then I'll just be waiting a whole bunch. So I do like to just lay it on its side. Usually I can go fast enough to where it doesn't ever drip out of the end, but I really want to make sure these stick and don't come off as I'm trying to fletch these, because there's nothing more frustrating than having to do things over and over again. We'll see how long it takes to build up 3 feathers glued on one shaft compared to the double-sided tape on one shaft. It is something to note that I was told once by a shop that you should never use the instant style glue on feathers for whatever reason. They specifically were saying you need Fletch tight, or the old school glue that takes a really, really long time to cure. And I never once have had an issue, so I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe that's an old school thing that's not necessarily true. I have no idea, but I've never had an issue, not even once, doing it this way. As long as you have full contact on the feather base to the actual shaft, of course, because CA glue, pretty much all of it evaporates, with the exception of a small amount of adhesive, and unless the vane base or the feather base is touching the shaft itself, you will not get actual adhesion. And because there is, these are basically just volatiles that, evaporate away as the glue is drying, because it does not fill gaps. If you have any gaps, it won't stick. The old glue does stick and fill gaps. Maybe that's why they use it, I don't know. Because generally you need to set up each jig for each individual diameter arrow to make sure it fits correctly. So something that I definitely do and always advise is you must squeeze the clamp first and then take it away. Otherwise you're gonna pull the vane or the feather off the shaft if it's not completely dry yet. So you open the clamp first and then you pull it away. And then you check and hope that the feather's on. It's still there. Good thing I'm not fletching a dozen arrows a day. I think the only way to fletch a ton of arrows is to do it in front of the TV or while listening to a podcast, something like that, just to keep your attention elsewhere, because this is pretty boring. It can take a long time, especially when you want it done right and you don't have to want to redo it again and again. It just takes time. I forget how easy feathers are, though, relatively to glue compared to other styles of vanes. They're a little trickier because the vane base is just, or the feather base is so wide, so you have a lot of forgiveness there and can get away with a lot of laziness or improper setup, things like that. And it just seems to make things go a little quicker when you don't have to be super, super precise like you probably need to be with these style of vanes. All right, so I think, yep, we're good. So you gotta be a lot more careful pulling these off a jig because the feathers are huge, obviously. And if you bump them, like right now, it's definitely not cured. So if you were to pull on these hard, they would definitely come right off. But these things are a sight to behold with such crazy amounts of helical. That is something else. So it looks really, really wild in this configuration without it being burned, but they're way oversized, obviously. These are 5 1/4 inches long and they're full height. So they're, I don't know, 1 1/4 inches or so tall from bottom to top. They're really, really tall. So they do need time and some effort to trim these down. But like I said, I will be doing another video after this one. Maybe not right away, of course, but I'll do another video showing you how to burn feathers and some of the cool designs that I've done in the past. And it's fun. It's something that you don't see a lot of people doing. Now, the last thing that you do in order to make this work is to take a bit of the glue and you put it on the ends, both the front and the back, just to kind of secure the vane a little bit more, the feather a little bit more, to make sure that it doesn't come undone. But basically, you just put a glob at the front of each feather quill here, right at the base of the feather. You don't want to get it on the actual, you know, the feathery parts. You just want to get it down at the base. Where the white part is, the quill part. All right, so that is officially done until it's dried. It's pretty wild. Maybe I should just shoot them like that for fun. No, I won't. But I'm gonna set this aside, kind of sitting on the point where there is no point in the end of the shaft, and just so those sit up in the air and aren't leaning against anything, because I don't want the, you know, them to fall off. I don't want them to have any issues. There. Now it's out of the way and it's not touching anything. So I'm gonna set this glue aside. I'm gonna use it for later though. I will glue these on, at least the tips of the feathers on, after I double-sided tape it on. Again, we're gonna run a timer and see about how long this stuff takes. Should be much quicker. And hopefully it lasts, because if it does, I'd rather just use this method. I actually picked this up in a shop somewhere. I don't remember where I was, but somebody told me, hey, you can just use this double-sided tape. I don't like to use that glue because it takes forever. Oh, and by the way, don't use this glue because it comes off. At least that's who told me and what they told me. Obviously, I like to use this because it works excellent. So this is just boning double-sided tape. It comes in a big roll like this. You could probably do dozens and dozens of arrows. I like to use it for spin wings, and I've never used it for feathers. So this will be the first time that I've ever personally used this. And we'll see how difficult it is. So I'm gonna start it in the front, obviously. It seems to have good adhesion. It's pulling the base of the quill off along with it. If you can see in there, probably not. But it definitely has some adhesion. It's just kind of tricky to get all lined up right. And to not touch it, of course, because you don't want to touch it as much as possible because your oils transfer to the double-sided tape. Man, I wish I had some scissors. Here we go, man, scissors. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna pull the center part of the feather away. Actually, this makes it tough because if I pull the center of the feather away like I normally do, it kind of squishes and moves as I'm putting the clamp in. Because of the way the helical is, it slides a little bit when I pull out the center. But I'm gonna try it anyway, because just checking at it right there with it pushed all the way in, the feather itself, the center part isn't even remotely close to touching the shaft itself, so I have to pull the center out a little bit. Only the two ends touched. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully it'll look all right. Pull the double-sided section off the release liner. Definitely not as forgiving as I can show you already. All right. I'm not convinced yet. It's stuck, so we'll find out. As you can tell, this is just requiring a lot of dexterity here. Maybe there's a better way to do this. Maybe you can comment below if you've used the double-sided tape method before, and let me know how you would do it better. Maybe you've done this test where you've fletched them up this way, fletched them up this way, and have done this and found out results. Let me know. Comment below Because like I said, I've not done trad stuff before, specifically trad stuff. I've done, you know, regular Olympic style tournament archery stuff, lots of it, and I am interested in learning, so I'm not one to reinvent the wheel unnecessarily. If somebody out there has done the work and they've done the testing and they, you know, are really, really strong in their beliefs because they've really put in the time and the effort and truly have, you know, not left any stone unturned in their quest for performance or longevity or, you know, durability, things like that, I want to know about it because I'd rather just learn from their hard work and either tweak it slightly for myself or just adopt it entirely, because it's a lot of wasted time and effort otherwise. Be a lot more careful with it. So far, I mean, it looks like it's sticking, so I'm happy with that. And the time is flying this way. The hard part's just putting the double-sided tape on. It's probably a better way to make less waste as well. Obviously, I'd probably have a pair of scissors instead of side cutters. So double-sided tape will actually adhere more over time. It would definitely be better if you let them, you know, I guess cure per se or set before you set them down like this, just because you wouldn't want it to pop off. I am still gonna glue the tips down because I did hear that from somebody who recommended me to do this. They did recommend to still glue the tips of the feather down, especially the leading edge, because it will lift eventually from what I've heard. And it kind of just tacks down the base of the feather, the back of front of the feather, the tape together, all into the shaft, and so hopefully it'll hold a lot better. So that's it. There's the two arrows done in comparison of using the glue for one and double-sided tape for the other one. Basically the same. You can't really tell the difference. You can tell because there's glue everywhere in this one and white residue from the CA glue. And this one, there's no residue. There will be near the base of the vein or the tip and the back of the vein, the leading edges. And yeah, so now I guess just let this one dry. Let this one firm up, I guess. I'm going to do a few more of each. I'm going to actually do 6 with feathers. I'm going to do 3 glued on, 3 double-sided taped on. I'm going to burn them as well, like I said, in a future video. Then I'm going to cut them, glue the inserts in. I'll fletch them with some of these trad veins. You don't need to see that. I'll do that on my own. And I'm just going to try them all because I'm going to be shooting a trad bow, as I've already said. And I've already put a few hints as to the style of shooting I'm going to be doing because I mentioned specifically those veins can be shot off the shelf. And I want to try it. I want to try it that way. Go back to some archery roots without needing a whole lot of crazy technical stuff. That's how I would fletch. I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong. I just make sure I have full contact using this Bitzenberger because it is a little bit of a pain in the butt. I like using fast set glue for feathers. It still works just fine. This is the first time I've used double-sided tape on feathers, so we'll see how those stick. And I'll definitely put some of these trad veins on from AAE and see how those go as well. To see where this takes me, I'm just going to have some fun, and I can't wait for my bow to show up. Can't wait to show you guys either.